Hello, it's Mio and welcome to yet another bird painting video. So this is the 5th acrylic bird painting that I've made so far and will probably be the last because this is the last of the used canvases that I have. So after this one I'll probably get back to more digital art and maybe I'll try to do some more sketchbook pages or something. So just like with all the other bird paintings, this bird is dressed in some form of historical clothing and has a little role to play. This one is a knight or a little soldier. So he's getting some fancy old-timey armor as well as a little helmet. I really like drawing armor digitally, but I've never done so physically or more traditionally like with paint or with markers. So this was definitely a little bit of a challenge. And I struggled a little bit, especially with the shape, because this is not a human shaped body. So making the armor look natural on the bird was a little bit of a struggle because I couldn't follow a reference. So drawing the shadows and lights was a little bit hard because I kind of had to guess how it would look on this type of a shape. I did not want the armor to just be clean, gray, black and white. So I did add a little bit of this kind of brownish gray here and there in the same place throughout. So it's like a little stripe of this color and then a little dot of it on the right side as well. There is a lot of back and forth for me when it comes to the armor, and it took me some time to kind of get the hang of it. You can see now that it doesn't really look like armor, but throughout the process, as I add more and more, it will look more and more like a normal armor, especially when I add the highlights. Here is the first little bit of a lighter tone, I guess, which will turn into a highlight. And here as well is the highlight. So the light is supposed to be coming from the right side of the painting, but not all to the right, but more in the middle, but more on the right side of the painting. And the middle of the armor is supposed to stick out a little bit, and that's why it gets that little highlight in the middle and then the shadow right next to it on the left side, because it's the shadow from the indent, if that makes any sense. So here I add some more highlights, which is probably the most important part of this armor. Really brings it to life, and without the shines it wouldn't really look like armor in the first place. And this is definitely the longest part of the process. This armor takes me a while to make because there's a lot of mixing and trial and error, and yeah, just trying to get it right really was the hardest part. Although I did quite enjoy it because I am a big fan of drawing armor in general. So yeah, even though I struggled a little bit, it was still a good time. The idea behind this drawing was that I really wanted to make a very tiny bird in a armor. So I picked this bird that I think is called Blue Tit because they're very tiny and very cute. And I really like the contrast between very tiny bird in like a strong armor. So it's like a little warrior, but it's very tiny. And I actually would very much like to draw other birds in tiny little armors because I really like the concept, and I like to think that this is a universe where there are different kingdoms with different little soldier warrior birds, and maybe some of them would have some more fancy armor or maybe even gold armor or something fun like that. So I would like to expand on this and maybe flesh out this universe more. I mean, they could have like their kingdom's flags on them or something like that. But I think if I have to expand on this idea, I would also have to figure out how they would fight, because they cannot hold the sword with their little wings, and I don't think they can just hop on one foot and hold a sword. So there's some tweaks here that have to be thought out. So maybe they would have a weapon in their beak, or maybe their beak is the weapon and they have some sort of a cover on it. Or maybe they just have very sharp claws on their little glove thingies. There are many thoughts here. Anyway, back to the painting. Now I am adding these kind of screw bits to make the armor look a little bit more detailed and also to kind of show how it holds together. And then I move on to the little face. So I chose this bird because I think it has a very pretty face, and also it is a bird that is not black or gray like the armor. So they do actually have a little bit of a black on their face that I will be painting in just a second, but for the most part they are blue in the face and then they are yellow on the stomach, which is not gonna clash with the armor. So I start with a blue and the white parts of the face, and I try to add a little bit of texture and make the texture look like feathers, because I think that would be a very nice contrast with the smooth armor. So smooth armor and fluffy face is the idea here. I also made the eyes extra big because I wanted that cute but deadly contrast. So like a very strong warrior bird, but has this cute little face with humongous eyes. And then here I'm adding in the black part that I try to make a little bit more blue-ish to not clash too much with the armor later on. Here I color the eyes completely black in the beginning. And then after I finish that, I want to make the eye pop a little bit more from the background because the stripes on the face are also black. So I add a little gray line around the eyes. Then I wanted the eyes to be brown, so I added a little bit of brown in there. And I will also be adding some more brown in the painting in general. There's gonna be brown on the little leather straps holding the armor on and things like that. Here are little eye shines. I think the eyes turned out absolutely adorable. And then here it's time to paint in the stomach. And I just added a very light layer of yellow to begin with, which looked green when I put it on because the background is blue. And then I added the fluff afterwards. Here it is time to add some more brown in there. So here I'm painting in the little leather straps holding the armor on. And then it is time for the helmet. The helmet is pretty much the same concept as the armor, where I have to focus a lot on light and shadows, but I start with this kind of mid-tone for the little part on the bottom before I add some more of the shadows. And this, I also had the same issue with this as I did with the armor itself, which is that it is a very weirdly shaped helmet. So I kind of have to wing it. It's hard to know where the shines are and such in general when it comes to armor, in my opinion, because it just feels very random. So I try my best and I try some different things, a lot of back and forth, just like with the armor. Here I'm trying to lighten up some of the bits and pieces while adding some shadows on other ones, and yeah, just so on and so on. When it came to the feet, I really just winged it because I wanted it to be some armored kind of feet. to protect them, and all the shapes are very random, and to be honest I don't think they fit all that well with the rest of the armor, at least not the round parts, or maybe they do fit with the screws actually, so I take that back, it fits. But I was getting a little bit impatient here because I had been painting the armor for a very long time and I was getting a little bit bored of painting metal at this point, so I did kind of rush it a little bit. I also think that the feet are the most, or the least important part of this process. They are almost not visible, they're very tiny on the painting, so they are a little bit more of an afterthought than the rest of the painting. So yeah, just kind of apply the same techniques that I did with the armor and just quickly put in these lights and shadows until I am happy with it. Here I am painting in the background. So I wanted the background to be blue because it's supposed to be the sky, but I tried to make it a little bit more of a greenish blue compared to the bird, so they wouldn't clash as much because the little wings of the bird are sticking out and I didn't want everything to blend together. Although I should probably just have gone with a completely different color, maybe a green or something, but that is just something I didn't think about while painting this. I'm also trying to get a little bit of an ombre effect, so it is darker at the top and then it gets lighter and lighter until it is the lightest on the bottom. Then here I paint the little branch that the bird is sitting on, and that is also a very simple just light and shadow, so I try to add the light on the top of the branch and then it is darker on the bottom. And I didn't really think about light and shadow all that much. Well, I probably should have thought this one a little bit more through and maybe thought about a light source a bit more properly, but I just forgot, to be honest. So it is what it is. I do think it fits pretty well with the light source anyway, so there's not much of a problem here. I felt like the branch was a little bit too simple, so I added a little bit of texture in there. Like a little tree texture where I first added the shadows and then I added the neutral tone and then I added the highlights over it again to get these very fine thin lines, which I really enjoyed, and I thought it brought the whole branch together and it looks a lot more realistic this way. So I did that in a couple of places where I felt like it was necessary. I avoided doing it to the bottom of the branch because I didn't want to ruin the shadows. So yeah, I think that was a pretty nice touch. Also, after I painted the sky, I tried to make the sky with some texture so it looked a little bit different and wasn't as smooth as the armor. I'm trying to get a different contrast in there, which I don't know if I like or not, but it is what it is. And here I'm painting berries because I wanted the painting to have a little bit more details in there and some more warm colors because we have a lot of cold colors in the painting. So here I'm adding some highlights to the berries. Then I will add some other details like the little butt of the berry and the little shine of the berry. And then in the end I will also be adding the tiny little branches holding the berries. So here I am adding the tiny little branches that are holding the berries to the tree. So I start with a normal branch color, but that is kind of blending into the branch. So I do add a tiny bit of a highlight, and that is pretty much it for this painting. So here is a final look at the final result. I am kind of happy with it. I like the armor, and I would definitely want to do this with another bird again. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and I will see you again next week. Goodbye.